The emotional weight fathers carry in their marriages and how to share it. This is today's subject that we're going to be looking at. What I want to do is I want to go through a list, a number of challenges that we as fathers face in our day-to-day life. Now, the first one I want to bring to your attention is societal expectations. What does that look like? This is where us fathers, we often feel a pressure to be strong, silent provider. So we're the strong, silent provider and we're suppressing our emotional needs. That may not be healthy. Not all the time, because sometimes that you need to express yourself, to lighten the load, to expand your mind. And it's like a pressure release. You're releasing that pressure because you're sharing it to your spouse and you're looking for some kind of help in whatever way to just lighten the burden of the emotional challenges and stresses. And this is not always talked about and this is not always shared to our partners, because there's a sense of, can I trust this person? Can I trust my spouse can I trust my spouse where I can be vulnerable and they don't abuse it? Can I trust my spouse where I'm able to open up and feel safe around them? There's issues like that. These are the sort of things that we encounter as fathers. Then we move on to balancing multiple roles. What does that look like? So we're trying to juggle work, we're trying to juggle family responsibilities, and then on top of that, we've got the emotional responsibilities that can lead to stress and exhaustion. Thinking about all of these things, it's quite tiring. Then we move on to the financial pressures. This is where the weight of the financial stability is often placed on the fathers, creating feelings of anxiety and inadequacy. So this is where we're trying to do our best to bring home the bread. But as we know, times are changing, things are getting more and more expensive, and our expenses are increasing. So there's a pressure to work more harder, to perform, to bring home the bread that is enough to sustain and support our families, but not just sustain and support, but also to move forwards, to make progress. So in order to do that, we must work more harder and smarter. So there's that sense of pressure there for us. Then we move on to the caretaking burden. What does that look like? So this is where many fathers feel a responsibility to be involved in parenting, but may not always feel supported sharing caregiving tasks. This is where, like I've said earlier on, where we have roles and responsibilities, duties around the home where each spouse is allocated to take care of. So, for example, my spouse takes care of the cooking, the cleaning, and I take care of managing the children. But sometimes she's doing all of those things whilst I'm away. And then when I come home, what is expected for me to do? What is my wife, my spouse expecting me to do in terms of helping out? If this is not being communicated clearly, concisely and precisely, then there's arguments. So we're having to deal with all of these types of miscommunications and conflict. Then we move on to sometimes through dealing with so much conflict and the pressures at work, the pressures with the family, it can make us fathers feel isolated, disconnected, or unable to express our emotions freely. Reason being is because if we express it freely, it can turn into an argument with our spouse, because they too are stressed. So you have two stressful people, stressed out people coming into the relationship and trying to work it out, but they don't understand each other because they're not being understanding towards each other's needs. They're not being understanding towards how each other is perceiving things. There's loads of expectations that gets that doesn't get done. There's so much miscommunication. Then we move on to guilt. Fathers can feel guilty for not spending enough time with their children or not being emotionally available for their partner. Yes, this is what we have to deal with as well, because when we are away for many, many hours at work, when we come home, we're just too exhausted. And this is where sometimes our partners may want to speak to us, but we're just too disconnected. We're just exhausted from the day's work or just the task or thinking about things, thinking about that, thinking about this. We're just not there all the time. Then we are just burnt out. We're constantly trying to meet external and internal expectations without sufficient support. This can lead to exhaustion and resentment. So when there's so much demand in our relationships, in our workplace. And then there's also internal demands that we have on ourselves. This can affect the quality of our relationship that we have with our spouse. Why? Because we could come across negative towards them. We can come across disconnected towards them. We can resent them because of the way that we're feeling. We feel like the weight is on our shoulders. There's a lot of things that are going on that are not understood. We've just been told to get on with things. Just don't express. You're the strong one. You're the rock. Get on with it. Crack on. That's what you're meant to do. But guess what? We are human. We have feelings at the end of the day as well. And we do need help, because raising a family is a tag team. You need both spouses to help one another grow. So whilst this is happening, there's also a deterioration of mental health. This is where stress, anxiety, and depression can arise when fathers are unable to share their emotional burdens. Like I said, not being able to express how you feel to your partner because, number one, that you don't feel safe, number one, and then secondly, there's a lack of trust. There's a trust issue there. This has can strain the relationship, especially when us fathers suppress our emotions or don't communicate openly. It can lead to tension. It can lead to conflict. So we've got all this this negative energy inside us, and it's coming out in a horrible way. We either snappy, we get aggravated, agitated, and we communicate negatively by our tone, our facial expressions, our body language. There's a complete disconnect. We become deterrents towards our spouse and our children. They don't want to be around us because we're just too negative. But no one really knows what's going on inside us up here. And guess what happens? Because we start to turn into this horrible person, we may not realize or be aware of what's going, realize what we're turning into. And this affects our relationships in intimacy with our spouse. Why would your spouse want to be intimate when you are coming across a certain way, when you are changing? You're very, we're very moody. We're snappy. And all of a sudden that you want to become intimate, and also your spouse feels the same way because she is also burnt out as well. So both people are exhausted, they're stressed, they're burnt out. And each of us feel as if we're carrying the burden and the other one is not sharing the load. That's a miscommunication and misunderstanding to acknowledge and recognize each of our situation is different. So, for example, our spouse is taking care of the inside the home and we are taking care of things outside, but also inside when we come back from work. And over time, there's resentment from both sides, our spouse and us. And you wonder why our intimacy is suffering. This is just one of many things why our intimacy is suffering. Because we're just changing. We're turning into this horrible person. And that's a two-way thing, because you are reflecting, will reflect how you are, how you feel towards your partner, and they will do the same thing. But the difference is they will magnify it, and whatever you give to your partner, she will double it, triple it, and all of a sudden it becomes a ticking time bomb. So how do we resolve this situation? The thing is this: I've gone through all of these things. I've been there, I've done that. And I've come to my own conclusion. Sometimes the best way is to accept your situation. So what do I mean by that? I've come to realize through this journey, it has made me mentally tough, resilient, tough-skinned, and more determined to do better. Even though the fact that in some cases I feel isolated still to this day. Why? Because at the end of the day, it's you chose that role. I chose that role to have a family. So that means whatever comes my way, I have to accept and embrace all the challenges. And I can choose to be emotional. I can choose to share, or I may not want to share. I may just be content in just cracking on. Because there's also this thing in society that where that we bottle things up inside, that we don't communicate with our spouses, our partners, how we're feeling. We're just meant to soldier on. Guess what? I'm also for soldiering on. Because sometimes that you don't have to communicate how you're emotionally feeling. You just need to know that you need to become strong, tough, resilient, and deal with it. Because we, as fathers, chose this situation. I chose to go out there and work. I chose to go out there and build my family. I chose to go out there and be in a relationship with my spouse and raise children and do the best that I can for my children, and also at the same time working on myself, and also at the same time working on my relationship with my creator, and also at the same time working on my relationships with my children and my spouse and people around me to impact society. I chose that. So guess what happens? When you make decisions and choices, especially big decisions and choices, there's always the opposite. There's always a repercussion, and that comes with the territory. And this is what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel, through the journey that I've been through and the realization that I come to know now, is people look at things one-dimensionally. And what do I mean by this? Like, when you're trying to do something good or make progress, there's always a backlash. There's always negative comments that are going to be made. And it's a part of it. Trying to be positive, trying to be good, but a part of that is to deal with the bad, to deal with the negativity. That comes with it. Challenges come with progress. Pain comes with progress. They go hand in hand. You can't escape it. The way to deal with it is to accept it and crack on. Hone yourself. Develop your skills. Become more confident. Become more braver, bolder. Make bigger decisions for a bigger reward. And accept the consequences that may come along the way. And what do I mean by this? By taking calculated risks. By taking decisions. You've only got one life to live. Yeah? And make the best decision according to your situation and circumstances. To make progress, it's all about progress. This is what I'm trying to say. Whenever you make progress, whenever you're trying to do something good, there will always be pressure. It's like this. I'm going to slightly go off the tangent and then just bring the point back into this situation. The kettle, look at that. For you to have a cup of tea, you need to boil the water. And through the electrical charge, the water is heating, it's bubbling until it goes and it's ready. The hot water has been produced under extreme amounts of pressure. And then all of a sudden, all you have to do is now just pour the water into the cup, mix the tea bag, and there you have it. It's the same thing for us human beings. When we're trying to do something good, there's pressure. Progress, pressure. Pain, progress. This is what I'm trying to say. So you have to embrace it. Now, in society, us fathers have been told that we need to be more emotionally tuned, and there's this quote that says, that we suffer in silence. Do you know what? It actually doesn't matter. You just need to know that you're here to do a job, to be responsible, to be accountable, and crack on. If you get the support, great. If not, still crack on. You're here to do a task. You're here to follow through with the decision that you have made. And you're here to also embrace the challenges that come your way. Because you chose that life. You made that decision. So why are you being weak? Don't play victim. This is what I'm saying. Fathers, don't play victim. Because I've been there. It serves no purpose. I'm able to make progress now because of this mindset is, okay, now I have to embrace whatever comes my way and just deal with it and just keep going. If people want to jump on. If you want to support me, great. If not, no problem. I'm still going to be the best that I can be towards my family and towards myself. All it means is this: when we're going through an emotional down, we've not worked on ourselves. And what does that look like? Trying to do things to make us feel good in a positive way, whether it means going for a walk, whether it means a long time, whether it means chilling out with the boys. You know, how much things are we inputting into our mind, heart and soul and our body in a positive way? You have to look at those things. What are you doing to make yourself progress? Yes, you're going out there, you're working and that, but don't forget yourself. This is what I'm saying. Don't make the excuse, I have no time. No, you make time. It doesn't matter if you've got 5 minutes, a few minutes, you can still do something. Keep it consistent. That's the key. This is what I'm trying to bring to your attention, of taking care of yourself, because I'm actually getting sick and tired of us fathers playing into the victim, that how we suffer in silence. Look, at the end of the day, you're not suffering in silence at all. And you're overthinking and you're overpressurizing yourself. When you stop this and you embrace, you know what, life is about challenges. The thing is, you need to understand, we are built for challenges. We are built tough that way. Whether our partner wants to emotionally connect with us, that's up to them. But you still have to continue. This is what I'm trying to say. Stop getting suckered into this emotional facade of this victim mentality. This is what I've come to realize and come to experience and come to know. This is what I'm saying to you lot. Don't play weak. Don't fall into the prey of this victim mentality. I'm emphasizing this over and over again because it's important for you to know, as fathers, that you've got a big task ahead of you. You're raising a generation. This is what I'm trying to say.